Our sleep token overrated. Sit down, you chuckle fucks. It is time for a new band to burst on the scene and gather all of the hate of the entire metal community. Nah, it isn't really that bad, but let's be honest. Sleep Token have gotten so much hate since they burst on the scene because of their popularity. People have been very butthurt. And I've been asked for a while now my opinion on Sleep Token. I've never talked about them on this channel, I've never mentioned them, I've never reviewed them, and I feel like with the release of their third studio-length record, Take Me Back to Eden, it might be a good time to talk about them, especially considering the fact that everyone's fucking talking about them. If you're unfamiliar with them as a band, I will give a very brief TLDR because I feel like everyone knows who Sleep Token is at this point. They are a British band that is anonymous. They are playing in the same way that like Ghost do in terms of keeping their identities hidden and playing into the aesthetic that they're sent down to create music. And the reason they have blown up so much is their eclectic and just downright peculiar approach to writing their material, which combines influences from alternative metal, post-metal, R&B, hip-hop, and so many other things. You can even throw metalcore and gent into the fold. They are difficult to pin down, so much so that their label cannot even pin them down properly genre-wise. And it is simultaneously the reason that they have garnered so much critical acclaim for their material, but also the reason that people kind of seek them out to hate on them and say that they are just posers. One of the things that is kind of prevalent in the metal community is anytime there is a band that blows up for one reason or another, you're gonna have people get upset with them just because they are popular in the metal community. It happened with Lorna Shore, it happened with Spirit Box, it happened with Ghost, now it's happening with Sleep Token. But you can't deny the fact that their impact on the metal community is going to be something that is seen for a very long time. But what are my opinions of them? I think they're fine. They're not my favorite band, and they're certainly not one of my favorite bands, but I can genuinely note the fact that they are combining things in such a way that you just don't hear. And I wanted to draw a very quick comparison, and I don't know if this is just a me thing. The 3 records that they have released thus far, does this not seem like mid-era Architects in terms of impact and popularity and the eclectic nature of the way they combine influences? It really feels like the way that they produce their material, the vocals, and the influence that it's going to have on future material from other bands, even bleeding into like Lorna Shore soon if you've caught up with like Will Ramos's covers and the way he pretty much fawns over Sleep Token. He has literally said that Lorna Shore is going to have clean vocals in their material, and that is literally because of Sleep Token. But the question of this video, are Sleep Token overrated? I would answer this with like a kind of. No, honestly, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and say yes. And before the keyboard warriors start spamming the comment section, let me actually give my reason. At face value, Sleep Token combine a lot of influences that I really enjoy. I love post-metal, I love gent, I love metalcore, I like R&B, I like rap. Honestly, it has nothing to do with the influences. The issue I personally have with Sleep Token is just the way that some of the fans ravenously act like they are the best thing that has ever burst on the metal scene. It's kind of like how people had such a craze for Architects back in the day and you had the Architects mania happen. But at least the thing you could say about Architects is they actually were one of the people that were really putting gent-infused metalcore on the map. I think a lot of people think Sleep Token are a fantastic band because of their blend of influences, because when you hear all of these things put together, it really does reek of something that would be very ingenious and something that is full of ingenuity. But when you separate the little influences that they have, there are a whole host of bands that are doing what Sleep Token have been doing. Gent-infused metalcore music with big booming choruses and clean vocals going into massive riffs and breakdowns, that's been done by a whole host of bands, but not the least of which would be Architects, who blew up years and years and years ago. Gent and metalcore music being infused with post-metal and post-rock and alternative metal music, that's being done by Spirit Box right now. And that is in no way to demean or degrade Sleep Token as artists, because the musicianship is fantastic. I actually have been really enjoying the current record, but it's the people that are acting like they are the most experimental thing on the block that kind of pisses me off. They're not doing anything that a bunch of other bands aren't doing. The only difference is they are combining the things other bands are doing into one specific thing, and I will give credit where it's due that doing something like that and bringing together things in a cohesive way is really impressive. I think another thing that just makes me cringe a little bit is how they play up the anonymous spooky evil thing. It's kind of the same way I feel about Ghost, where it's like, I understand that you're trying to make it out to be like you're just the creepiest thing on planet Earth and you're playing into this aesthetic, and it is really cutesy, but let's be honest, you are one of the biggest, if not the biggest names in metal right now. It'd be like trying to say Slipknot is something evil and spooky and creepy. A mask is just a mask at the end of the day, and while I do understand that playing into an aesthetic and a style and playing into a thematic element can be really fun, it definitely separates from the artists themselves to where you aren't really able to give credit to the people that are making the material. And while you could make an argument that being separated from the artist and from the band itself can be a good thing because you are focused solely on the music, there have been plenty of artists that have done that. Look at Sia. I wouldn't say it's the most common thing, but it's definitely more common than you might think in a lot of genres. In other words, Sleep Token aren't doing anything new in that department. It's a really give and take thing because on one hand, Sleep Token would not be Sleep Token if it weren't for their look, and I think their aesthetic is what drew a lot of people to them in the first place and got them so much attention, because anytime you have something that is going to stand out and isn't just, 4 or 5 or 6 dudes standing in front of a green screen background or standing in front of like a fucking landfill with their instruments, it's gonna stand out when you have these elaborate costumes and this elaborate look to them, sort of like a band like Portal. I understand that that's playing into their thematics, but by the same token, pun unintended, you are losing a bit of the sort of relationship that you can have with an artist or that you can have with a band to tie you to them closer. And the material wouldn't change if they didn't have the outfits, so the material would still get the attention. I just don't think it would get nearly as much attention. And I think unfortunately people do have a habit of conflating the fact that they look different and that they sound different, and so they think that because they look different, that affects their sound, when in reality, I don't really think it does, and I think it's more of just like a thing in people's heads. I think they've struck gold with their past 3 records. It has certainly garnered them some of the biggest acclaim in the metal community, and they're by far the biggest metal band of the 2020s, I would say, in terms of everyone is fucking talking about them. Every YouTuber knows about them. They are headlining shows. They are playing massive shows and festivals. They're at Blue Ridge this year, if I remember correctly. They are just humongous in terms of the metal community. They are everywhere. And it's not hard to see why. In the modern crop of metal, there is always this sort of desire to have the shocking factor, to see something or hear something that you don't usually hear or see. And considering a lot of genres are a little stagnant right now, it is the bands that are doing something different with their style that sort of rise above the rest, because with the OSDM revival bands and the 50th Gent band and the 50,000th Black Sabbath ripoff stoner and sludge band and all of this shit, it's easy to see why bands like Falling in Reverse and Spirit Box and Sleep Token and Lorna Shore are blowing up. It's because they're doing things that no other bands are really doing. But I will say that Sleep Token's acclaim is a little much, just because I think that their atmosphere, the vocals, the extremely sanitized production really isn't doing anything that a lot of other bands don't do. It's just the fact that they link everything together like a fucking chain link fence. That's why they are blowing up, is because people are hearing something they don't really hear. But if you listen isolated to these things, you can kind of see. I am happy, though, that Sleep Token are turning more people on to music that they wouldn't particularly know otherwise, especially considering the trap influence, the R&B influence, all of these sort of lackadaisical post-rock influences. They're able to sort of sell and make it a bit more digestible for people that don't really like specifically heavy music, and so when they hear the breakdowns hit or these big choruses or these gent metalcore riffs, it can actually turn them on to music and be a gateway band. I think in the coming years, you are going to see Sleep Token's influence on a lot of bands. I think in the 2020s, when it comes to bands, Lorna Shore and Sleep Token are probably going to play a massive, massive fucking role in influencing a whole host of bands that come out in the future, either stylistically or instrumentally or aesthetically. You're gonna see that happen. And I think those 2 bands will be 2 of the decade-defining bands in metal. They already are. far and we're not even halfway through. But now we get into some of the more controversial topics and polarizing things about Sleep Token, not the least of which is the accusations that they are industry plants. And while you can't fully ever debunk a myth like this just in the same way that you can't prove a myth like this, I will say that I genuinely don't believe that Sleep Token are fucking industry plants, and I truly do believe that the only reason that this spiraled out of control and had that momentum is solely because of not only their rapid rise of success as well as the anonymity. When you have artists where you don't know their identities and you don't know where they're coming from, and considering the fact that Sleep Token just as a historical band really don't have much of an origin story that you can really tie them down to, considering how anonymous they have kept their not only identities but their origins, it isn't hard to see why people would take that and add in the fact that they blew up out of seemingly nowhere and think that they are industry plants. Now, when you talk about the rapid success in a vacuum that they have had, I don't think that that is necessarily a point in the direction of saying they're industry plants, because usually when you have industry plants, you see them getting pushed a lot. And in terms of the labels that they have been signed to, in terms of YouTube and social media in general, I didn't really particularly see much heavy pushing of Sleep Token, and I think you can amount this to another thing entirely, that being the momentum of social media from creators talking about them. If you trace back when Sleep Token started to really mount up in popularity and become such a massive name that like everyone knew, that happened right around the time that people were talking more about them. And anytime something is popular in the metal or rock or just any genre community, that in turn is going to make more and more people talk about it from the creators. And you had bigger and bigger creators talking about Sleep Token as a band. You had all of these reviewers, these big reviewers talking about this band, and because of that, that not only made the numbers go up, but it also showed validity in the growing fan base of the band, to where the fan bases of these creators were basically like, yeah, I want to hear your thoughts about Sleep Token. It's literally happened to my channel. I have had countless people, dozens of people ask me my opinions of Sleep Token, Sleep Token's album, Sleep Token's rise of popularity, and that's the exact reason I'm making this video essay. What can I say? Y'all won. You can't hold out forever. But the rapid success of them, I think, was not only because of the creators, but it was also because of their eclectic style. I think it was a lightning in a bottle type of thing, where similar to Lorna Shore, if you want to make a comparison, no one is calling Lorna Shore industry plants after the Will Ramos era, because they blew up. They were always a big deathcore band, but you gotta admit, that's when they blew up as a household name in the metal community, even to people that didn't particularly like deathcore. And you could see it that when To the Hellfire released, that's when more reactions came out, more reviews came out, more videos and blogs and forums and posts came out about it, and that in turn not only made the views go up to be pushed in the algorithm more and more, but it made more people talk about them, and subsequently people became more turned on to Lorna Shore that wouldn't have previously heard about them. And I think that's very similar to what happened with Sleep Token. It was the word of mouth buzz from all of these creators talking about and reacting to Sleep Token in these massive reactions that not only turned people on to the music, but pretty much single-handedly gave Sleep Token such a massive platform. And on to my next point. I think another major point in the direction of their rapid rise of popularity is what I would call being in the right place at the right time in the musical landscape. Look at the influences that they are putting into their music. Every single style that they are putting into their music is just very hot right now and very popular right now. And you can't really look at that objectively and say that that isn't a big reason for it. But I would also say that if you look at a lot of genres nowadays and subgenres, a big deal in the late 2010s as well as the 2020s especially is what has been dubbed hybrid genres, where you would take one genre and put it into another to create a weird bastardized amalgamation. You saw it with nu metal being infused with metalcore, making the new metalcore movement. You saw in the mid to late 2010s trap metal start to become really big, and you've seen a ton of genres take heeds from other things, with more and more bands popping up in different genres like death doom and blackened death metal and blackened thrash metal. And in the 2010s you had the black gaze movement, which was introducing shoegaze music into black metal, and specifically at atmosphere has become such a big deal in modern music. Specifically, if you look at metal, the most praised bands over the years are the ones that are able to not only evolve their style, but put more atmosphere into their music. You saw Whitechapel get a lot of recognition when they started to include clean vocals into their style. You saw Bring Me the Horizon blow up when they started to change up their style. You see Asking Alexandria being very polarizing, but doing bigger numbers than ever when they changed their style. You see Cattle Decapitation changing their style over time and growing more and more popular because of it. You saw Architects packing in more atmosphere into their music and distancing more from their signature metalcore style, and they've been doing more numbers than ever. The list goes on and on and on. Look at a band like Falling in Reverse. When Ronnie Radke started to come back to Falling in Reverse and make this sort of trap metal, metalcore hybrid music, did you not see the numbers that it started doing and how Falling in Reverse are bigger than they have literally ever fucking been? Notice what Sleep Token are doing here. People are saying that trap has never been introduced into metalcore music. Falling in Reverse would like to raise a fucking hand because yes, it has. That's not something that isn't being done. And in fact, there are numerous bands in the new metalcore niche and the metalcore niche that have been introducing trap music and rap music into their style. So yeah, it's fresh to hear that, but it's not inherently reinventing the wheel in the way that so many people say it is. But if you guys want my answer to why I think they rose so heavily into popularity, I don't think it's because they're a fucking industry plant. I literally just think it is because they were in the right place at the right time. They had lightning in a bottle. Reaction and reviewer channels gave them more and more of a platform, more of a snowball effect and momentum, and they literally have just kind of mastered this hybrid metal style that is just appealing to a lot of people. Not to mention, and I think a lot of people wouldn't want to admit this, they're a very sanitized, digestible, and cleanly produced version of the genres they play in. Yeah, their breakdowns are really heavy. They have some heavy-ass vocals and heavy-ass riffs, but let's be completely honest here, the production really does wash it clean of any brutality or intensity, and some of the growls and riffs aren't anything that you couldn't get from just a modern alternative metal band and something that is more known than ever. With the bar and ante being raised more and more for these bands to clamor for the heaviest breakdowns and the heaviest solos and the heaviest riffs and vocals and how monstrous you can sound with bands like Lorna Shore and Slaughter to Prevail and Acrania and Infant Annihilator making the bar be raised so high, brutality by itself isn't enough to carry a band anymore. And especially when you have a style that is so sanitized, cleanly produced, and made so clean that the everyday average person could enjoy it even if they don't particularly usually like metal music, you are not only supplying an itch for the people that do like that type of music, but you are also servicing people as a gateway band to really get into other genres and to dive deeper into your discography and attribute that to you. And honestly, I think that's just genius level marketing in terms of bringing together this style. Is the sound good? Is it atmospheric? Sure. I think Sleep Token as a band are perfectly fine, and I do enjoy a lot of their material, but I don't think that they're like the best thing that has ever happened to metal, but a lot of people act like they are. But overall, what are your opinions of Sleep Token? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Do you think they're overrated? Do you not? Do you like them? Do you hate them? I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this band. Be sure to drop a like on this video. It helps a lot. Subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morrison. I'm signing off saying farewell.